And we, as Americans, look up to people who have wealth, and we like to vicariously live through their lives and understand what's going on with them. And it's interesting, in the American dream is to be what? It's to be rich and successful, right? Be independent and not have to rely on anybody else, right? That's the American dream, right? Well, today we're going to talk about wisdom and finances. We're going to look and see how that American dream and what our culture is pounding at us all the time, how that lines up actually with God's wisdom from the book of Proverbs and stuff. So, yeah. So, does anybody know what the Ohio lottery is up to right now? We had a winner? It got up to close to about $500 million. You know, as the lottery gets bigger and bigger, more and more people play. You know why? Because they're trying to win. That's right. And the dream, I mean, yeah, maybe I'll buy a ticket for $100 million, but if I could buy a ticket for $500 million, right? Surely that's a better investment than just investing for $10 million or, $20 million or something like that, right? Well, yeah, so it's amazing in America. Guys, I may need to have you help me here. Oh, I got to turn it on. There we go. Let's try that. Part of the thing, and you have to wonder, that money comes from people actually playing the lottery, right? I mean, the government just doesn't print this money in the state of Ohio. It's actually people who've paid into it, right? And that payout is $500 million. That means over $1.5 billion have been invested, okay? Because for every dollar they hand out, $2 or $3 they're taking for things that the state is spending money. So think about that billions of dollars are being played in Ohio for the Ohio State Lottery every year. And why is that? Because what? I want my dream home, right? I want my dream lifestyle. I want all those things that come with it. Yeah. Give me that next slide. Well, let's take a look at, before we get into Proverbs, something that Jesus had to say about this. What did he say? He says, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth, which is completely against everything we're hearing in our culture, that I'm supposed to get as much as I can, as fast as I can, right, for myself. He says, don't store up for yourself treasures on earth where moss and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moss and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be as well. Yeah. So part of what God is saying is, yeah, I want you to be wealthy, but I want you to be wealthy within my kingdom, right? And your significance isn't based on how much money you've accumulated or things that you've accumulated, right? Your significance is based upon who you are in Christ. And oh, by the way, yeah, there's money out there, but I'm actually giving you that money so that you can be a steward of the money to go be about my kingdom business. It's actually not that money is not there to spend on me. It's for me to use to walk alongside God and the good things He has going on. Go ahead and give me that next slide. Yeah. What's this a picture of? Do anyone remember what this parable was of Jesus's? Yeah, remember? The parable of talents and the stewards, right? And we all learned this when we were in Sunday school, right? About the king that went away and he left one guy with a lot of stuff and another guy with a little bit of stuff and another guy with a smaller amount of stuff. And he says, I want you guys to go invest this and I'm going to come back and see what happened, right? And for the guy who had a little bit of stuff, he doubled it. And the king says, great, you've done really well. I'm going to give you even more to steward because you were doing what I asked you to do. And the guy who had a lot, he doubled his, and God says, good. I'm going to give you even more to go steward. What did the one guy do? He took it and did what? He buried it, right? Because he was afraid of the possibility of having to use that with the king's business and maybe losing it, right? And the chance that maybe the king would be angry with him that he'd lost it at that point. So he didn't do anything with it. He just protected it. And what did the king do at that point with him? He says, well, what little you got, I'm going to take away from you, and I'm going to give it to the other guys because they were the ones that were stewarding my stuff really well. And you didn't even get it. You didn't get the reason I gave this to you. I gave it to you to go invest and to use, not to hoard and not to bury and keep away from everybody else, right? Yeah. One more set of verses before we get in Proverbs. Give me that next slide. This is Psalm 1. I love Psalm 1. Remember, Pastor Greg was talking to us about the book of Proverbs is written to us to help us not be foolish people, right? And remember, he talked about that there's kind of three broad classes of fools. Well, let's read through Psalm 1. It says, God's wisdom here for the foolish world. What did he say? He says, oh, the joys of those who do not, one, follow the advice of the wicked, or two, stand around with the sinners, or three, join in with the mockers. Yeah. And those are sort of those three classes of people that Pastor Greg was talking about, right? The first is the gullible, who I'll just listen to whoever gives me some advice, right? I'm going to follow advice of whoever gives me some advice. Doesn't matter. If you're going to give me some advice, I'll take it, right? And God says, no, we need to be aware that there's wicked people out there. They're going to try to give us advice as well as anybody else. And we need to be discerning to know when we're getting bad advice. And that's one of the reasons God gives us his word in the body of Christ is so that we can have some of that discernment, right? And not just take the word of anybody at what they have to tell us. The second group is standing around with sinners. This is the group that says, hey, I know what God's truth is, but I think I can manage this, okay? I can manage being with the foolish people and hanging out with them and being part of it because I'm smart enough to do that. And God says, no, if you do that, you're going to fail as well too, right? And then the third group are the mockers. Those are the ones that basically said, I don't even care about who God is. I reject him. I'm in charge, right? And that's the one that you say, I'm going to join in with them. Yeah. The book of Proverbs is written to help us. And the sad thing is, we as believers, we can be all three of those kind of people. We can be gullible, and we can be taken in, okay? We can be self-assured and think we can hang out with the fools and it won't impact us. And unfortunately, there are times we get so sucked up in this, we think we can be arrogant and mock God as well and act just like the mockers, and we don't think there's going to be any consequences. As a matter of fact, next Sunday night when we get together as a family, one of the reasons we're doing that is we need to bring before you somebody who said that they were part of our body and they're with us, and actually they've decided to go hang out with the mockers now. And that's a serious thing. That's a serious thing when we see a brother or sister in Christ makes a decision to do that. So part of the reason we have the book of Proverbs is to give us wisdom so we don't fall into any one of those groups of traps there. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about how this has to deal with us with money. Because let me tell you, money for us as Americans is a hard thing. Because we are taught 24/7 by the world how to use this money and how it ought to impact us. And a lot of what we're being taught has nothing to do with God's truth. Let me give the last part of the set of verses here from Psalms, though. It says, he says, listen, if you're going to listen to my wisdom, this is what you look like. He says, but their delight is in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit every season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. Now that's God's promise to us, okay? He says, if you are willing to walk with me in my wisdom, okay, then you will prosper in my kingdom. Now, notice I said the words prosper in my kingdom. I didn't say you're going to prosper in the American dream, okay? Didn't say that you're going to be living the lifestyle of the rich and famous. It says you will prosper in my kingdom if you will walk with me instead of with the fools. So today we want to take a look at some really practical things along the lines of what that kind of wisdom looks like. So I'm going to give you 6 broad classes of things that have to do with money. Now, part of the reason we say, well, Will, why are you, who are you to talk to me about this, and why should I listen to you? Well, first off, I'm just going to give you the scripture, so you don't have to listen to me at all. You just listen to God. He'll take care of that, right? But one of the things I've been doing as a pastor here at this church is working alongside a lot of people who have a lot of money issues. And been doing that for about 8 years now. And I've seen some general things that have gone on with folks in that context. And part of that is, as we've been working through as a group of families here at this church on some wisdom principles, I just want to share some of those to the rest of us as well, too. So one, so you know what we're working on. Two, maybe these are some things you need to be thinking about in your own life as well, too. All right. So principle number one. Give me that next slide. First thing, acquiring money is hard work. Did anybody get that? Okay? It's not easy. You have to be diligent, first off, about earning it, and then you got to be diligent that it doesn't slip through your fingers like water. And I've seen both kind of things. I've seen people that don't want to do the work so they get the money. Okay? They're looking for anybody else in the world to do things for them. And that's not what God is calling us to do as a body. On the other hand, I've seen people who are extremely wealthy, who've had lots of money, and are in a desperate situation because they spend more than they have. And let me tell you, you can be on Social Security disability income of $798 a month, and that's your only income, and you can be in a bad place. And I've seen senior executives out at the Air Force Base that are making 6+ figures, and they're in a desperate place too. I had one gentleman, I retired from the base after working out there for 34 years. I know a guy out there who's been out there for 38 years now, and I'm saying, why are you still working? You got this great pension, you got a lot of things you do in life, and you're talking about the fact that you're just tired of going in and stuff, and he goes, man, Will, he says, I got so much debt. He said, I will never stop working. I have no choice. I have to keep working because of how much I owe. And I'm looking at this guy, I'm thinking, man, you had an incredible amount of money, and yet your whole focus is on the fact that you're just in debt, right? Well, we're going to talk about that as well, too. But it is hard work. It is hard work. Let me show you some of the Proverbs on this. Go ahead. Give me the next slide. Lazy people are soon poor, but hard workers get rich. A hard worker has plenty of food, but a person who chases fantasies has no sense. Work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. And the last one, despite their desires, the lazy will come to ruin, for their hands refuse to work. Yeah. So, part of what we encourage folks in our faith and finance classes is that if you can work, you need to work. You need to have a job. Okay? I have people who will hound me 20 phone calls a day to find out what the church will do for them, but they won't lift the phone to apply for a job. Okay? And some of the people I said, seriously, if you could just put all that energy that you're trying to get somebody else to give you free stuff into actually earning something, you'd be pretty productive, right? So this, you kind of go, well, I thought being part of God's family, I have all his riches and he's supposed to bless me, right? No, God says, no, I want you, part of participating in my good works is you're going to participate in the earning of those so that you can bless other people with it as well. Yeah. One of the things I talked with Sarah Mays, our admin person here, and our mayor, is we're talking about the fact that all of us have to choose our hard. And I said, well, what does that mean? Well, it is hard to be poor. It is no fun to be poor. It is no fun to be in debt and not being able to pay your bills and have your water shut off and not being able to repair your car and maybe lose your house. None of that's fun, right? And you know what? It's also not fun to have to get up every day and actually go to work on a consistent basis and be reliable and earn your pay. Both of those things are hard. The amazing thing is God says one of those two you're actually walking with him and the other one you're not. So choose your heart. Choose the hard thing that you're actually walking with God, because he says as you walk with me, the blessings come, right? And you can choose to be lazy and life's going to be hard, and you also find out, well, God says that's not what I'm calling you to be. Now, I get it. There are times when we can't work or when we're working as hard as we can and things aren't sufficient. There's times we need people to come alongside of us. and that's okay. But that's not, for a lot of us, that's not where we are, right? So first off, God is calling us to work hard so that we can have some of that wealth to do some other things with. And that's the other thing we're going to be talking about. What do we do with that wealth? Okay. Give me the next slide. Point number 2. Debt is not a path to wealth. Okay? I don't know how many people I've talked to say, man, I got to get my credit score better. I said, well, why is that? Well, because the higher credit score it is, the more money I can borrow. And I'm thinking, no, I want you to have a credit score to 0 because you don't need to borrow any money, okay? Because you shouldn't have any debt because you don't know how to handle debt. And why would I want you to have more debt? Isn't that a sad thing? We're all worried as Americans about what our credit score is so we can get in more debt and borrow more money. Wow. Well, what if we actually thought about, well, I want to save up in advance to actually pay for the things that I have and not be in debt? Let's look at some verses about that. Go ahead and give me the next one here. These are from Proverbs. Just as the rich rule over the poor, so the borrower is a servant to the lender. Every time you borrow money, whether it's for your house or your car or your vacation or for your Christmas gifts or whatever else you're doing, you are putting yourself in somebody else's debt. And you're letting them be in control of you at that point. And God says, I don't want you to live in as a slave to somebody else, right? So just a general principle God has is, no, debt is not a good thing, okay? God says, I want you to not be beholden to somebody else. And as I've been working through our budget and finance class, there's another kind of debt that's a really hard thing too. Let me talk about this. This is the one that says, don't agree to guarantee another person's debt. Oh, what if somebody else is struggling and in a hard place? And they're saying, man, I'm getting squeezed really hard. Will you come alongside and pay for my debt? This isn't your own personal, you're going to take on somebody else's debt, right? What does he have to say about that? He says, don't agree to guarantee another person's debt or put up security for someone else. If you can't pay it, even your bed will be snatched from under you. I can't tell you how many times I've run into people who says, my utilities are going to get turned off, and if I lose my utilities, I'm going to lose my apartment. And if I lose my apartment, I'm going to lose my job. And if I lose my job, everything else falls apart. And I have to go, okay, well, why aren't you paying your utilities? Well, my sister was in trouble. And so I spent my money this month to go help my family. Because family is really important, right? And we stick with family. We stay with family, right or wrong, right? Even if they're being an idiot, we're going to stay with our family. We're going to take care of them. And people, I can't tell you how many people I run into that have spent the money that they needed to keep their own home afloat so that they're taking care of somebody else who's being foolish. And guess what? When you do that, you get sucked up into their foolishness. Has anybody ever taken a life-saving course for somebody who's drowning? Yeah. Do you know what they tell you to not do when you're trying to help somebody who's drowning? Okay. Well, the first thing you do is you come up behind them. Okay? And you grab them from behind. You know why you do that? Because if you come into the front of them, they will grab you, and you know what they're going to do with you? They're going to push you down so that they can get a breath. And if you don't know how to help somebody when they're drowning, over and over again, people drown themselves. Okay? Not because they didn't have good intentions, not because they didn't want to help somebody. It's because the person that they were going to save was so desperate, they will put you under and hold you under if that lets them have a breath, okay? So, another kind of debt you want to be very careful about is coming along somebody, and let me tell you, it's really tough when it's family, okay? Because you want to say, yeah, I mean, I've had folks say, my parents are terrible with their money and stuff, but, they borrowed and borrowed and borrowed, but they're my parents, I just got to give them money. Or my sister's terrible, my brother's terrible, or my kids are terrible, right? And they've put themselves in situations that makes it precarious whether they're going to be able to live. And what God is saying is, no, that person needs to be accountable for what's going on in their own life. And if they're being a fool, don't get sucked in with them and drown with them in that situation. It is poor judgment to guarantee another person's debt or to put up security for a friend. Yeah. Now, let's just talk about flavors of debt, okay? On the low end, there are some piranhas in Xenia. Okay, these are people that are feeding off of other people, and you kind of go, "Wow, I didn't know that," and they look really respectable. Yeah, and they're business owners, and they got a business, and we want to champion business in Xenia. We want to see more of that, right? Well, has anybody ever seen a rent-a-center truck driving around town? Yeah. Yeah. Those trucks go two ways. They take furniture to people's homes, and guess what else they do? They come repossess the furniture, and they take it back. Yeah. Yeah. Rent-to-own schemes. I had a young mom called me up. She says, "Oh, Will, I just need a little bit of help. They're going to come and take all my furniture in my house, and I won't have anything. I got 5 kids, and they're going to take the couch and the table and the chairs and the beds and everything else." I said, "Well, okay, well, how much you owe?" "Just $75. I said, "Okay, does that pay it off?" She said, No, that's the payment for this week." I said, "Oh, okay. How many weeks you been paying on it?" "I don't know. We've had it for a while." And I said, "Okay, well, how many more weeks do you have to pay on it?" "Oh, I don't know, but all I owe is $75, and I can keep my stuff for this week." And so we actually sat down and we looked at her contract for this Value City quality couch and chairs and table and beds. She was paying $8,500 in the lifespan of the contract that she had. But it's only $75 a week, right? Yeah. So what do you think my advice was to her? Yeah, the truck's coming tomorrow, and it's going to take all your stuff. Okay? And we'll go look for something else. But you're not paying a dime anymore on this. Now, that's hard, right? But it's also hard being in debt, too. Anybody know what a title loan is for your car? Yep, this place in town will give you a title loan. Basically, you sign over the title for your car, and they'll give you a bunch of money same day. But guess what? You have to pay that back, what? Every week, plus fees, plus interest. I've seen people that have gotten an $800 title loan, and they've had to pay back $5,000 on that title loan. But it's not all at once. It's just over time, right? And we've had people in our church with counsel. So guess what? Call them up and tell them they can have a car, okay? Because you can't afford a $5,000 car because that car is only worth $1,200 altogether, right? Yeah. Now you might say, "Well, gee, Will, that's okay for folks who are kind of struggling." And there are people in this city that feed off of people that are in desperate situations, okay? But there are also people out there trying to feed off of the rest of us as well, too. That look very respectable. Yeah. Who's got a phone plan in here? Yeah, raise your hands. Everybody's got a phone. You may not be paying for that plan. Maybe your folks are paying for it, but you got a phone. Come on, you're paying for it, right? Yeah. I'm not going to make you raise your hand. Anybody paying over $50 a month for that plan? Yeah. Do you think AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile and Boost are poor people that you need to help every week because if you don't send them extra money, they're going to starve? Well, I would challenge you, if you're paying over $25 a month on your phone plan, that's exactly what you're doing. You're subsidizing them because you're feeling bad for them because they're in such a bad situation. They need you to send more money to them every month, right? How about who's got cable TV? Who's got internet at your house? Yeah. How many people got that package deal where they give you the home phone and the TV and the internet all together? Yeah. How much are you paying for that? $100, $150 a month? Well, you got it in the intro plan, right, for $60 a month, and then it kicked over to the other one. You didn't notice when that happened. Now you're paying $150 a month, right? Yeah. How about credit cards? Oh, well, credit cards are good because the more I charge on my credit card, it helps me with my credit score, and so I need to keep my credit score up, so I have to keep charging on my credit cards because if I have a higher credit score, then what happens? Well, then I can get a credit card with more headroom, and I can charge more stuff and get more debt, right? Yeah. So I'm not the dumbest guy around, okay? I mean, I went to school and did a few things, but I got a brother who's really smart, okay? He's way smarter than me. And my brother and I, we both went to MIT, and let me tell you, he's my younger brother, but he's really a sharp guy. And he was a software designer and programmer, and he went to work for this company right out of school. And I remember I went to go see him. I said, "So what do you do?" And he explained to me, and I got a computer science degree from MIT. I couldn't understand what he was talking about. I just didn't get it. I said, "Sam, just make it a little bit simpler for me." He goes, "Oh, well, what I do is I work for a company that works for every major credit card company in the world. And what they do is I write the programs to make sure that people are in as much debt as possible without defaulting on their payments. And we analyze all this stuff, and we offer it to them. We set rates so that we're getting the maximum amount of money out of them on a monthly basis." And he says, "That's my job." And I said, "Well, you must be doing really well because they're making a lot of money, right?" Yeah. So, you know what? There's a lot of poor people that can't get a credit card because they've done some pretty bad things. But there's a lot of the rest of us that can, and we're paying 10, 15, 20, 25% interest on that stuff. And a lot of times you can justify it saying, "Well, it's okay, I've got enough money." Whose money is it? Wait, whose money is it? Wait, whose money is it? It's God's money. You got enough of God's money that you can pay Chase Bank 25% interest so that you don't have that money to go be part of God's good works? You got enough of that? Well, maybe you think you do, and maybe the master's going to come back and say, "Well, you're not doing a very good job managing the money I gave you to be part of my good works, so I'm going to take that away and I'm going to give it to somebody else who can do a little bit better job managing that. Because my good work isn't paying Chase, okay? My good work is using that money to come alongside of the ministries in your city and the folks in your church who are hurting. That's how I want you to actually spend your money, okay? So we can get it. You can have a really good credit score and payment history, and you can get a lot of debt on your car and your house and other things to the maximum amount that you don't have a dime left to be a part of the kingdom work. Because there are corporations out there that are working really hard to make sure that they've got every dime that you could send anywhere, and there's not a dime left over. Part of what God is saying about debt is not a path to wealth is he's saying, debt robs you of the ability to participate in my good works. Yeah. There's a reason why we've been talking about accelerating, getting rid of our mortgage on this facility, right? And remember we talked about debt-free in 23? Let's get out underneath that, because as we looked at it, we said, once we get this mortgage paid off, that frees up a whole chunk of funds to be used in other ways for God's good works that we don't have the freedom to do right now. And that's true for us personally as well. Let's go on another point. Oppressing others is not a path to wealth. Okay, yeah. Do you know in America, as long as it's legal, it's ethical? Did you know that? Isn't that right? As long as it's not illegal for me to take advantage of you, it must be ethical, right? Because it's not illegal, right? Isn't that how it goes? God isn't just saying just because the Ohio Revised Code says you can take advantage of somebody, it's a good thing to do. Wow. You mean just because the municipal court says it's okay means I shouldn't be able to do it, right? Or maybe just because somebody doesn't know about it that I'm doing it doesn't mean it's okay, right? Because I just didn't get caught doing it as well, taking advantage of somebody else. Let's look at some verses on those. Don't rob the poor just because you can, or exploit the needy in court, for the Lord is their defender. Oh, there's somebody else involved in all this. It isn't just me and taking advantage of somebody else. There's somebody else involved. Who is that? Who is it? It's the Lord. Oh, remember, he was the one that entrusted me with wealth in the first place to be part of his what? His kingdom, his good works. And what he says is, Part of my good works is taking care of the poor, not exploiting them. Part of my kingdom work is for you to use things to bless people, not so that they will curse you in that situation. For the Lord is their defender. He will ruin anyone who ruins them. Wow. Is that the kind of promise you want from God? Because he just gave it to you. Take Will Urschel out of the equation. This is between you and God at this point, right? A person who gets ahead by oppressing the poor or by showering gifts on the rich will end up in what? In poverty. Well, that was the one thing we thought we were going to all avoid was poverty, right? By oppressing somebody or trying to buy influence of folks. Anyone who, get this, anyone who steals from his father and his mother and says, what's wrong with that? Now, why would anybody steal from their mother and father and say, what's wrong with that? Say, what's wrong? It seems like they got a lot of stuff and I ought to have it, right? So if I take it from them, who cares? I mean, they got enough. I should be able to take more, right? Is no better than a what? Oh, a murderer. Yeah. See, we like to rank sins, right? We got the really bad sins, and we got the kind of the okay things, right? And on the bad end of sins is murder. I mean, we're kind of all pretty much, at least in our society today, we kind of think murder is kind of a really bad thing, right? If you go out and just kill somebody, we're like, whoa, that's pretty bad, right? Then there's the acceptable things. Well, guess what? God says if you're taking advantage of somebody, it's like what? It's like murder. Wow. Wow. Now, I've seen people at the low end of this city with somebody who doesn't have transportation, is desperate to get to the store to get some medication, to charge them $20 for a ride. You know why? Because they can. Because somebody's desperate. Okay? Right? And on the flip side, I've seen people who are really well off decide, well, I don't have to pay my taxes, or I'm going to steal time from my boss at work and not, put down on my timesheet that I work certain hours and I really haven't, right? Or I'm going to take things from work because there's plenty of that at work, or they got lots of people doing work and, they don't need it and I do, and do that kind of stuff, right? God says, no, I don't want you getting ahead that way. That's not the way you acquire wealth. Because you're supposed to be getting that not to spend on yourself anyways, it's to do what? Yeah, right? So oppressing somebody else is not the way to go about doing that. Let's take a look at another point. Keep going. Wealth is not to be kept stored up. Now, listen, I know there are some people that if you give them $10, the $10 will be spent by today, okay? I'll guarantee it. I could give them 100, I could give them 1,000, I could give them 10,000. It'll be gone today. And there's other people I could give you $10, and you'll have $10 for the next 10 years, okay? Because it's going to stay there, right? And, there's another part of American culture is a little bit of frugality is next to what? Thriftiness is next to what? Godliness. That must be out of the book of Proverbs, right? No. You can't find that in the book of Proverbs, okay? Because God says, you know what? I gave you that wealth so that you could be part of a blessing on someone else, okay? Yeah, I want you to take care of your needs. He talks about taking care of your basic needs, not every dream you've ever had. And he says, once you've taken care of your basic needs for you and your family, what you have then is to go and bless someone else. Because isn't that what God's been doing with us? He says, all the riches of my creation, God says, when we come to Christ, I share all that with you. He doesn't hoard any of it back. Isn't that amazing? Remember, Christ said, I don't call you what? Slaves anymore. I call you what? My friends, right? He says, I will not. And he says, I'm in heaven doing what? Preparing a place. Christ, for eternity, was preparing a place for Larry Killian. Especially for Larry Killian. And this weekend, Larry Killian got to go to that place that God for all of eternity had been preparing for him, and all of God's wealth that he wanted to share with Larry Killian. Think about that. And Larry is getting lavish in that right now because it's a God who's lavishing on him, right? Well, God says, the reason I gave you that wealth is so that you can bless somebody else. Let's look at some verses on that. Greed brings grief to who? To the whole family. When you're greedy, it doesn't just impact you, it impacts everyone around you as well. Because God gave you those resources to be a blessing on everyone around you, and as you hold them in, you can't bless the people around you anymore. And so you impact them all. Wow. This is the fools talking to you in the first part of this next verse. This is what they're calling out. Think of the great things we'll get. We'll fill our houses with all the stuff we take. Come on, throw your lot with us. We'll all share the loot. Guess what God says? Such is the fate of all who are greedy for money. It robs them of what? Of life. What are the fruits of the Spirit? What are they? Love, what? What else? Joy. Long-suffering. Those things are life. When you withhold the things that you are stewarding from blessing the people that God intended you to bless, you're also withholding those fruits of the Spirit in your life. And you're robbing yourself of life. Yeah. You know, and a lot of times, it's hard sometimes for people to accept things, to accept health. And you know what I tell them? They said, well, I don't want to be a burden. You know what I tell them? I said, don't be a thief. Don't steal my what? Don't steal my joy, right? Because if you don't let me be a part of God's good work in your life, you're stealing from me. Because I get joy in that. Because I'm walking alongside of God's good works. So don't steal from me. Let me be a blessing for you. Kim and I, a lot of times you guys have heard about the tithe, right? The 10%, okay? And sometimes we struggle towards doing that. And when we first got married, the first 6 months of our marriage, we had nothing. I got here as a second lieutenant in the Air Force, and I borrowed half of my salary for the first 6 months so we could, get a house. And we walked in here in December in the worst winter that Xenia had in forever, and it was like 20 below. They shut the county down because it was so cold, and we had an all-electric house, and I got my first electric bill. It was like $150, I think my net pay for that month was $400, and here I'm spending $150 on just electricity. Wow, okay? And you know what I reasoned to myself at that time? I said, well, I don't need to give anything at church because we're just really struggling, right? And, when things get better, then I can start giving, right? Well, where does that reasoning lead? Where does that go? Well, it never goes anywhere, because once you start deciding that you don't need to participate in God's good works until you've been blessed enough by God, you can never be blessed enough to ever decide to participate in God's good works, right? Yeah. Once you start stealing, it's just easy, right? You just keep up at it. And God had to teach me some hard things. He said, no, Will, life is hard, but I still want you, just because life is hard, I don't want you to stop being part of being a steward. You may not have much, but you're still a steward of things, right? Yeah. So I got the point, and I said, no, we're gonna do way more than the tithe. And listen, Kim and I have been given 30 to 40% of our salary for decades away to people. Give to a church, give to missionaries, give people to need, okay? And there's times I've paid for other people before I paid for my own stuff. And let me tell you, the one phone call you don't want to get is from your wife that says, hey, Will, did you pay for other people's utility bills this week? I said, yeah. She said, did you pay ours? I said, I don't know. She goes, well, I know. I said, well, how's that? She goes, because they just came and turned our water off. So she says, can you pay our bill? I said, yeah, sweetheart, I'll pay our bill. Okay, so there's other proverbs about that too. But listen, God challenges us to be abundant with those around us because he says, try me, right? You try and outgive me. You try and give more than I can give. You try and outbless what I can do with that. And I'll just tell you, God has provided for us through all those times. Now, have we been able to do that all the time? No. There's been times when we've been in a desperate place. When Andy was going through his cancer treatment, the bills were horrendous for that. The treatments were thousands of dollars a piece. We had to give it to him every other day. I didn't know where the money was going to come from to do that. And I didn't even have the courage to tell my wife how much this was costing. And I had to laugh sometimes because we gave Andy the treatment at home. We had to give him an injection. And we got a dry mix. We had to mix it up and give him the injection. They had all the instructions about things to be careful about, get a little air bubbles in it and stuff, And so I'll mix it up and get ready to give it. And Kim would look at the injection. She goes, oh, there's an air bubble. Let's throw that one away. We'll do another one. I'm going, no. We're not throwing this away. He's getting this injection. And she go, no, I think we need to throw away. There's an air bubble, right? And in the back of my mind thinking, you have no idea how much this costs. You do not want to throw this away, right? And there are times when God is going to put you in a situation when you're going to need to be blessed by somebody else. And I remember coming to church one day, and I went in my box, and there was a check there from somebody, a gift in secret for me. And my first response was, I don't need this. And the second thing is, I must be a really bad husband and dad if I'm in a situation where other people have to help me. And then, it hit me. It says, no, don't steal somebody else's joy, right? God is using them to bless me, and he's blessing them by letting them give, okay? So God will put you in situations where you may be in desperate need to teach you that it's okay to get and to let your brother or sister be a blessing on you as well, okay? Those things are to be used. Now, everybody's got to look at this yourselves, but I would just challenge you that as Americans, we are not anywhere near using the financial resources we have to bless the people around us that need to be blessed that we could be. I'll just be straight up with you, okay? We're not. We're not. As a culture, we're not. And I would challenge you that this week maybe to sit down and take a look at that and say, hey, maybe I need to start getting out of debt in some areas so I can start blessing some people, and maybe I need to stop hoarding so much so I can start being a blessing to some people as well. Next point. Money is earned to be given, right? Let's look at some of those verses. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it is within your power to help them. Where'd you get that power from? From God, right? Now, there are times when people are desperate around you and you don't have the power because God hasn't given that to you, right? Remember, that's what we talked about. Don't take somebody else's debt at that point. Don't bury yourself at that point. But there are plenty of us in here that God has given us the power to do good. And God says, you better not be withholding when you have that power. Remember the parable of the talents? The steward that withheld, what happened to his? It was taken away, right? The one who, when he gave you to be able to participate, do that. The generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. Whoever gives to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to poverty will be cursed. Yeah. And church, let me just tell you, Xenia is it's a white-collar town, it's a blue-collar town, and it's a no-collar town, okay? We are an urban community. I'd say there's probably 20 to 25% of our households are living in the poverty level in our city, okay? Now, there's some other communities, if I want to go down to Washington Courthouse or Centerville and stuff, and say, well, I don't know any poor people, I don't know anybody who's in need, right? Well, that's not true for us. There's plenty of people in our city that are in need, and there's plenty of people in our congregation who are in need as well, too. Now, doesn't mean we just throw money at people, but God says, part of what he's calling us to do is to come alongside of people who want to walk with us, right, that are drowning, and help them get a breath of fresh air and learn to some of these financial principles as well, right? But that doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in a month. Sometimes it takes 6 months, a year, a little bit longer. And as God has been patient with every one of us, he wants to be patient as long as people are responsive and walking with us as well too. Yeah. Blessed are those who are generous because they feed the poor. Wow. You know, when you can give through the benevolent, you can just open your eyes up to some of the needs of the congregation here as well and get to know people to find out what they need to be blessed, and just go do it, right? Doesn't have to be through us pastors or deacons. You can do that yourself. One last point. Keep going. Give me that next slide. Character is more valuable than wealth. Wow. What is character? That's not a word we use much of, right? These days. We don't talk about a person's character. Yeah. My dad used to tell me, you can tell a man who has character if when he's sitting alone at home eating dinner, he uses a butter knife by himself. That's right. He's got character. I don't know if I would use a butter knife in front of other people, let alone by myself. But character is what you do when nobody's looking. That's really what he was saying, right? Character is what happens when you think you can get away with it and nobody's there. Yeah. Let's look at some of those verses. Better to live humbly with the poor than to share plunder with the proud. Better to be poor and honest than to be dishonest and a fool. Loyalty makes a person attractive. It is better to be poor than dishonest. Better to be poor and honest than to be dishonest and be rich. Wow. God is saying, when we talked about these general principles about wealth, God's plan is not to bless all of us with wealth, right? Some of us, he's going to give us wealth so that we can be part of the blessings on the ones who have what? Who have less. If we all had wealth, there'd be nobody to bless, right? Okay? So God has set the body up so some have more and some have less. And it's easy when you have less to think, I will by any means try to achieve to have the more, because the more must be the people who are in power and doing well and doing all those kind of things. And God says, no, maybe the place I've given you is where you, at this time of your life, you're going to be blessed by somebody else. But I don't want you to be dishonest about it, because it'd be better to be poor and live a life of character along with my wisdom in my life. Yeah. You know, when I was little, my folks got divorced when I was 2 years old, and my mom went back to live with her parents on the farm. And we didn't have much, okay? And I got an allowance. My allowance was 10 cents a week. That's how much I got. And we had a little store in the little town nearby where we went, and they had these little plastic airplanes. And they sold them a little packet of plastic airplanes for 40 cents. Now, how many weeks did I have to save up to get those airplanes? 4 weeks. How long is 4 weeks in a 10-year-old's mind? It might as well be forever, right? It's just way too long, right? Not 10, I think it was 8 at the time. Well, guess what? I found out where my grandmother kept the dimes. And I figured out that if I went into the drawer where she had the dimes, I could buy the planes how often? Every week. That seemed like a really good deal for me. So my mom figured this out after a couple of weeks, because I kept on coming home with more of these plastic planes, and she knew I was only getting a dime a week, right, from my allowance. And pretty much I had to fess up that I had been ripping off my grandmother so that I could get the plastic planes. Now, we may laugh about that a little bit, but character flaws start when a small thing and they go from there, right? And thank goodness God found the yardstick of my grandmother, and she knew how to use it, and that left quite an impression on me, so I didn't do that anymore, okay? Yeah. But there's lots of times when something will come up and you could take advantage of a person they'd never know about it. You could take advantage of a situation. And in your mind, you're going, nobody's going to know about this. Why don't I just do this, right? Well, you know and God knows, right? And this isn't the resources that God wanted you to be stewarding. I was at my mom's farm. God in His providence, we sold it, thank goodness, 2 months ago. I actually have a life back now. But while I was out there, after we started listing it, I was on the back deck, and I found a wallet on the back deck. I thought, this is kind of strange. And I had a young man that was working inside the house. I said, hey, is this your wallet? He goes, no, it's not my wallet. And I looked inside. You know what was inside that wallet? $2,500. Somebody had come out to the property to look at the property, and they dropped their wallet. Now, I don't know why anybody's carrying $2,500 cash. Maybe just gone to the bank or something, right? And what do you think was going through my mind when I looked at that $2,500? What? Yeah, need to call him. Well, that was the second thing that went through my mind. Susan, thank you. Yeah, that wasn't the first thing that popped up. Well, we had somebody at church that needed a car. And I had a line on a used car for about $1,500. I thought, man, this would go a long way to take care of that car, right? Maybe this is God's providence, right? You know, they did it, right? Sorry, Susan, that was the first thing that went through my mind. So sorry. All right, so I had to catch myself and say, no, this isn't how we're planning on buying that car for that person. God's going to provide for that, right? And then I had to look at the person's license and figure out who they were and give them a call. And you know what? I took it to the guy's house and dropped it off, and you know what? He never said thanks. Never said thanks. But that's okay, because you know who was telling me thanks? It was God. Yeah. Your character is worth more than wealth. Okay? All of us are going to find a situation where you could make something or take something, and we don't think anybody else is ever going to know about it, and we don't even think it's ever going to come to light. But you will know, and God will know, right? And God says, that's not how He says, I own the universe. If I intend for you to steward something, I will give it to you to steward. I'm not looking for you to steal to steward it, right? Because He says, that's not part of my plan. Who came to steal and destroy? Who was that? Satan, right? Satan came to steal and destroy, not God, right? So choose your kingdom. Which one you want to be part of, right? Your next slide. So, Proverbs is a big book. Greg talked about that. Man, it's pithy. I've just hit 6 points. I could pick another 20 points about money out of there, okay? It's almost endless. You can read this thing and you'll find things over and over again. I would challenge you to do that. But what do we talk about? First off, acquiring money is hard work, okay? Being part of God's kingdom is hard. Okay, got it. Choose your hard. Do the hard things where you're walking with God instead of doing the hard things walking away from Him. Because they're both hard. Okay? Do the hard thing, walking with God. Debt is not a path to wealth. Okay? There are times, I get it, when you have to, but it shouldn't be an automatic part of life, and you shouldn't be seeking to get as much debt as you possibly can, because the more debt you get, the more you're enslaved to somebody else and the less you can bless somebody with, right? Don't oppress somebody else while you're trying to be a steward. Don't keep everything you get for yourself and store it up and begrudge somebody else of a blessing, right? Because God didn't give it to you to store up. He gave it to you to bless somebody else, right? Remember that money is earned to be given away. And the last thing is your character is way more than wealth, and much better to be poor and have character than to rip somebody off and have a little bit, but you lose your soul, right? You don't want to do that. Yeah. When you listen to a song, what's the most popular music in America right now? What? Gospel? Anybody else? Rap and hip hop is the most popular music in America right now. And in many parts of the world as well, too. And as you get to be really popular in that genre, you make a lot of what? Make a lot of money. There's a lot of money floating around in rap and hip hop. And they sing a lot about it. And they sing about ways to earn it that has nothing to do with what? God's wisdom, for the most part. But God grabs guys in lots of different situations, just like he grabbed the tax collector and brought him out of this. There's a young guy who was in the rap scene in Los Angeles, was making a lot of money, was living the lifestyle. As a matter of fact, he said, I wasn't as bad as I should have been because I was singing about things I really wasn't doing. And so he decided, everything I'm singing about and rapping about, I'm going to actually participate in because I want to be real, right? So if I'm talking about beating up women, I need to go do it because, I'm rapping about it, so let's make sure I do that. If I'm talking about stealing from somebody, I actually need to steal. And God grabbed this young man because a gal he was living with, her little brother needed to be dropped off at church. And he went with her to drop him off at church. And God convicted him when he met some of the people there. He says, what I'm doing is wrong. The way I'm living is foolish. And it's empty. And it's worthless. And now he raps about a lot of wisdom from God's word. Now, the community that used to suck up everything he was doing before kind of hates him now, okay? Because he's really calling out everybody and saying, the way you're living is wrong, what you're doing is wrong, and there's a much better way to live. But he says, that's okay, because why? Because God's on my side now, I'm going to be part of that. And so he had a song a few years ago called God Over Money. I just want you to listen to this.
Consider me a G-O-M-er. We the team, Christ be the king forever. They sell greed as need, but we know better. Tell the enemy that he can get an E forever. I know you got bills, dog, but we all got them. And that don't stop y'all from hitting the mall shopping. So you break the law to get what you can't afford. Cause the latest song says you're nothing unless y'all got it. That's what I call bondage, and I'm free from it. I mean, I need money, but I don't need money. Cause understand it when the famine hits and no one to sell they food, and people will see they can't eat money. I am a G-O-M-er, courtesy of G-O-D forever. It's God over money, and money over nothing. It only got the power that you give it when you love it. It's just paper, can't you see? It's changed us from now on. God over money. So tell me what you grind for. Little piece of paper that you live and you die for. Put your soul freedom in your life on the line for. But it's time to quit living life in the blindfold. They got you ready to murder your brethren for $1 that it only cost them 4 cents to print. It's evident we need help, but the question is, will you serve a living God or a dead president? See, the value has never been the paper. The value is in the resource that you pay for. Cause if that same resource was made free to you, it'll literally destroy what cash means to you. So how you risk your life for a paper dollar when as long as you have a life, you can make $1. But all the money in the world can't make a life. Get your money, but keep God first and make it right. I am a G-O-M-er, courtesy of G-O-D forever. It's God over money, and money over nothing. It only got the power that you give it when you love it. It's just paper, can't you see? It's changed us from now on. God over money. God over money. Go ahead, break the money curse. Put God at the top and stop putting money first. Putting cash first. Got a bunch of us up in hearse, leaving us with paper that won't cover up the hurt. Somebody listening now, blinded by the paper, and all this running through their mind is how I'm a hater. The truth is I ain't rich, but I'm not broke, and I done turned down deals you done hopped on. If the money's really worth something and we print it, then how we in a deficit? Bet you never questioned it. How's $20 worth less than $100? They the exact same thing with different numbers on them. It's just a tool that they've been using to get control. That's why they put you in a cell if you print your own. But everything, including us, they get to clone. Knock it off, you funny. Money will never get us thrown. I am a G-O-M-er, courtesy of G-O-D forever. It's God over money, and money over nothing. It only got So what I'm saying is the truth. Then the question is, what you gonna do about it? What you gonna change?
Is God over your money? Is God over your money? Right? Is your money God's resource that He's given to you to be a steward, to bless your family, and to bless people around you? Okay, or is it the end? Is it the end goal, and your family and people around you are getting in the way of you keeping as much as you can? We all need to think about that, right? And God's calling us to be good stewards and not throw money away just because we have it, right? He wants us to steward it well, to figure out how to be the maximum blessing to people around us. And just in the parable of talents, he says, as you use what I've given you to steward and you do it well, what does he do? He gives you more to steward, right? Young guys and gals, listen, when you're in high school and college and you're trying to think about what is life? What's coming downstream? You know, what am I going to be doing? I would just challenge you, you need to be thinking about today, right? God says, today you are a steward of your time and what you have. And guess what? God says, as you use today well, including the money you have today to bless people around you, he says, I will take care of the future, right? I'll take care of that. But if you're all worried about that and you're withholding the blessings he's called you to give, you're not going to get the blessings in the future. Because God says, okay, we're going to take some time out and learn some things first, right? Be a good steward of today. Let's all stand. Let me pray for us before we go. Father, you have, as a church family, you have given us incredible wealth. The majority of the world couldn't dream of living like we live. Even the poorest of us, Father, lives a way that's well beyond what the majority of the world could even think of. And yet, we many times think we're poor and barely making it, and we don't have the resources to bless someone else. God, help us to be a good steward with what you've given us. If it's just a little, then we steward it well, we don't waste it, and we pray that God will let us bless someone else. And if we have a lot, we steward it well, and we don't waste it. And we look for ways to be generous with people around us, Father. And we thank you that we don't have to make this up on our own, because you came to earth and you were so generous with us, Father. Help us to look to you and say, my Father is generous with me. I want to be generous with those around me. Praise things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Go out, be blessed, and use your money well.